Susan Monarez was confirmed as the new director of the CDC in July, but after just 1 month on the job, she has already been fired. And I'm sure you're dying to know why. Well, it's because she, a scientist with years of experience in infectious disease, disagreed with RFK Jr., a moron with years of experience serving as worm food, on the topic of vaccines. And look, the drama of how exactly it came to her being fired is complex, but in short, effectively, RFK Jr. Said during his confirmation hearings that despite a lifetime of evidence to the contrary, on the topic of vaccines, he actually has an open mind, and he's not gonna come in already having decided anything about what should happen with vaccines. That was a lie. So he got into the office, he banned a red dye or something so that the Instagram wellness people would get off his back. And then he turned to his true passion, which is getting rid of everyone inside of the CDC or Health and Human Services that knows anything about vaccines or is even capable or interested in reading the academic literature. And so Monarez, as the head of the CDC, was pursued by Kennedy to sign on to utterly changing the government recommendations having to do with the coronavirus vaccine, not based on any new science or anything like that. And in fact, when other top CDC officials asked what exactly they're basing these recommendations on, they were told, we're not gonna present anything to you. It's based on literally nothing except for their ideology. Well, she's an actual scientist, and so she said no. Now, they tried to pressure her to resign. She turned to Senator Bill Cassidy, who was like the deciding vote on RFK Jr. And it seemed like he could have gone either way. And they didn't like that, RFK Jr. didn't like that. And so they put more pressure until finally they fired her. And her lawyers have put out a response to that saying, when CDC Director Monarez refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts, she chose protecting the public over serving a political agenda. For that reason, she has been targeted. And that was the reason. It's why she is now gone, and she is not the only one. Dozens of top officials have either resigned or been fired. Entire advisory boards of experts on vaccines have been wiped out by RFK Jr. and ideological lackeys have been put into their place. And this is the reshaping of the CDC and HHS that everyone who had paid even like a little bit of attention to RFK Jr. knew was coming, and it's coming very quickly. Cenk, what do you think?
Yeah, so look, I've been extraordinarily open to RFK Jr. And here's what I mean by that. I don't mean today, I don't mean the job that he's done in Health and Human Services. I mean, when he started running within the Democratic Party and then as an independent, first of all, we had him on the show and we gave him a fair hearing. Challenged him on the things I don't agree with, found out some interesting things that we do agree with on lowering housing prices, on corruption, etc. right? And then when he came into office, as the cabinet secretary, I was still open, and I said, "Look, this is your golden opportunity now. You've been saying that you're going to prove that vaccines don't work your whole life, right? Or whatever it is that you think you're saying, because he keeps saying no, he's pro-vaccine, and then does the exact opposite." So I guess he said that to get confirmation, get past the confirmation hearings, etc. But it doesn't matter because you're in charge now. So you can actually prove, and that's what I said in the beginning, go ahead and prove to us through science that you're right and all of the other doctors and scientists are wrong. So, I mean, you've got this amazing opportunity you never get any time else. And so now we check back in. Has he done that? Nope. Hasn't done that at all, hasn't presented a single piece of evidence, hasn't looked at a single legitimate study or ordered a legitimate study, etc. He's got a couple of kooks that he's referring to, but even they haven't presented any evidence. And so now when you say to me, Susan Monarez, who was, by the way, appointed by Donald Trump and confirmed easily by the Senate and is, by all accounts, a great expert on this issue, you just fire her summarily without even asking her. I mean, she's at one of the most important roles underneath you, period. Maybe the second most important person. And so normally if that person was reporting to me and she just got in, the confirmation took a while, etc., right? I would say, okay, so then if we're having a real conversation, well, what do you think about vaccines? What's the the side you want to defend? And I'd get a whole bunch of people in the building and I'd have a conversation about it. I'd have presentations, I'd have both sides present. Instead, he's like, okay, you're fired. What? Hold on, you don't even know my views yet. And oh yeah, you're pro-vaccine, get the hell out of here. And my kooky guys over there, yeah, I believe them. But brother, you didn't show any evidence yet. So no, it turns out you're totally full of crap. And so maybe he turns around, but that is very unlikely at this point. And so he's revealing who he really is. And so for all the people who called him a clown and a bozo, here we are. I mean, you're the secretary and you haven't presented a single piece of evidence, and all you're doing is firing the top experts. And by the way, one last thing about it for now, like, it's not like he showed any wrongdoing. It's like if he said, okay, look, yeah, I didn't ask her for what she thinks, etc. But like, here is something she did that was against science or against health or whatever. No, nothing. No, you're pro-vaccine. So's everyone else. So it's like 99% of scientists and doctors. You're fired. Okay, then you're an idiot. So the jury's come in. Good luck on appeal, but the jury has definitively come in now on RFK Jr. And if you said, hey, my jury had come in earlier, okay, fair, no problem. All I'm saying is, I've got an open mind, and and that applies to everyone on the left, the right, etc. If you can present evidence. I am very wary of big pharma and giant corporations and them telling us and through both themselves and our politicians what's good for us. When the drug company says we have to pay whatever price they demand and we can't negotiate prices, and you tell me big pharma is doing something wrong, I'm all open. I couldn't be more open to that argument, right? But then like on politics, we presented. Big pharma purchased all these politicians, and the result you see here is that we can't negotiate drug prices. Here's a couple of $100 million they put into buying our politicians. Here's a couple of $1 trillion they're getting in return, right? Extended monopolies, etc., etc. That's evidence. This is not evidence. Me don't like you. You're fired. God, what the hell is that? So it turns out he was a clown from day one. All right, Nina.
Yeah, I mean, he's following in the footsteps of President Donald J. Trump, obviously with this action. And Jay, I think it's wise for us to have an open mind, give people an opportunity. And certainly RFK Jr. as well as everybody else that had the courage to run in that race deserve to have, for all of us to have an open mind. This is most disappointing. It is destructive, and it could end up being dangerous. You want experts on diseases in these positions, and you want to get understanding. This is not, he's treating this like it's his own individual crusade, and I get when you're a private citizen, he was on a crusade, but now that he is in a cabinet position, his position should be to get the science, to get the facts, and to question. There's nothing wrong with questioning. Jake, you make an excellent point about the pharmaceutical companies and how they're just peddling drugs. In some cases, RFK Jr. may be correct about some of this stuff, but then you don't go and, as you put, just summarily fire the expert on these issues just because you want to have a temper tantrum. And his temper tantrum is and could put millions of people in harm's way, in jeopardy. And even if it doesn't happen today, 5 days from now, 10 days from now, at some point, these kind of decisions are going to catch up with us all, and it has ramifications beyond our shores. You don't play with disease in this way. So just very disappointing to RFK Jr. I had an open mind about him too, Cenk. I really, really did. And I thought it was wrong for the Democrats to ignore him. I thought it was wrong for them not to reach out to him after the primary. They should have went to get RFK Jr., all the things. But we're gonna separate that from how he is comporting himself in this position right now. Most disappointing, and it goes beyond individual disappointment. This is about the impact that role has on all of us, both in the United States of America and the world, because diseases know no borders and no boundaries.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is ready for how bad it's gonna be if there's another pandemic. Like, random chance, act of God. It was terrible the first time, when there was an actual health infrastructure and like Fauci was there or whatever, and we had the resources, they hadn't been defunded, there were actual scientists. And the Republican base wasn't like concrete hard against anything being done to stop the spread of illness. But now all that's done. The CDC is going to be utterly irrelevant. It's going to be filled with quacks and kooks. That's it. HHS is going to be ideologically opposed to doing anything. Donald Trump has already been booed for like promoting vaccines and stuff like that. He's not going to make that mistake again. Fox News is utterly, again, concrete hard against taking any of this seriously. And so if we get a pandemic, man, buckle up. Nobody has any idea how bad it can get with these chuckleheads in charge.
Yeah, so you said act of God. It could break out because of an act of God or an act of the Wuhan virology lab or whatever it might be. Look, I will do a challenge back to RFK Jr. So he had constantly wanted a debate on vaccines with some of the top experts, and in fact, well before 2024, about a decade earlier, I knew him. He asked me to try to set up that debate. I tried and couldn't do it, okay? Because the folks who are from the official circles and real scientists and doctors didn't want to entertain Bobby Kennedy Jr. Well, now he's the head of Health and Human Services. So Bobby, right back at you now. So would you debate Susan Monarez on vaccines on the Young Turks? I extend the invitation to both of you. My guess is now that he's in power, he ain't gonna debate anybody, okay? He's gonna run for the hills and he's gonna do whatever he wants. He's gonna fire whoever is making sense. He's not gonna present any evidence, and he's just gonna do his, pet peeve project that he's had for his whole life. And then if it turns out he's wrong, since he doesn't have any evidence, well, it's not his health on the line, it's our health on the line.
Yeah.
So it's absurd. You're supposed to be protecting our health, not making it worse. And by the way, what happened to all the stuff about, we're gonna get better diet and you're gonna go after big food and all the processed foods and stuff? That sounded interesting. Oh, right, they're huge donors. And all of a sudden, there's none of that talk, okay? Yeah. So all the positive stuff flushed down the toilet, whatever existed. And by the way, the first thing that he talked about when he first got in office was the most important thing for America's health was to make sure you agree with Israel. And I'm not making it up. It was from the Health and Human Services. So I don't know what he's on and how much damage the brainworms did, but protecting Israel has nothing to do with our health. It might have something to do with his health. I don't know what that's about, but it doesn't have anything to do with our health. So right now, his stewardship of HHS has been an epic disaster. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.